I'm very happy with the cameras I have. I couldn't really ask for more. And I know this is true for most of you who have a camera from the last 3 years. And there is nothing to complain. But I often wonder what's next. That thought comes to my mind often. And I have a few things to share today. Welcome to Frames Team, and let's talk about how I think cameras going forward could be better. And in my head, there's just three things that can fundamentally change the way we relate to cameras, the way we carry, shoot, store cameras and camera gear. So I think Nikon or Sony or Fuji, one of these three brands should actually go ahead and do this. Now, Nikon, because I'm very heavily invested in Nikon, I'd love if Nikon does it. I think Nikon have an opportunity here to push for innovations that would matter a lot to many. And here is what comes to my mind. First of all, internal SSD integration. It would mean super fast recording. It would mean better heat management because you know what kind of SSD you're actually using in the camera. It can be optimized for the camera. The manufacturer will have full control over what kind of storage they want to keep inside the camera. And you will never have to worry about forgetting a card because you already have an inbuilt card. So I'm looking at a minimum of 500 GB to 1 TB internal SSD for pro bodies, and for prosumer bodies, 250 GB internal SSD. This also means that the camera is going to be far more secure because you don't have to just take out a card, put it back again. Imagine doing that 2,000 times. Something is going to go loose, right? And that happens. Especially, it's sad, especially when it's an expensive CF Express card, which Nikon uses quite heavily. And now everyone is using those cards, including Canon and Fuji. Sony is not there yet. They're using CF Express A cards. So I think from a durability point of view, from a convenience point of view, it's great to have an internal SSD. Of course, give us an option to have another card, where we can use a cheaper card, maybe something we can just add in for additional storage capacity and all that. So I think it can revolutionize the workflow, how people actually shoot with it. And you know what? Also, the manufacturers can price the cameras differently. You can really, you'll probably have to pay a slight premium if you want better, higher internal storage. But that's fine. We are used to that game for a long time because we've been buying laptops and computers and phones like that for a long while now. So I think people are used to it. But I think the upsides of this is amazing. And for me, the main motivation is that I'm going to get the best quality storage if the storage comes directly from the manufacturer. And also, I think a lot of the limitations of heating and storing is not going to be there once we have it. So that's my 2 cents about why we should have the internal SSD. Second, I think the time has come for us to move to ND filter integration. I really feel that especially some of the pro cameras and some cameras like the Nikon ZF, for example, here, this is such a stylized and classic styled body. There is a need to have an internal ND filter. First of all, for videographers, it's really, really convenient. Just flick of a button or one, customized button, and you can activate the internal ND. Now, what's the upsides of having that? The upside is that when you are using an external ND, it gets dirty. You have to fit it. You may drop it. You have to get different ND filters for different lenses, then have those, rings, those, step-up rings. It's kind of messy, and it's difficult to manage and handle. And it's that extra things that you're carrying in your bag. Now, when you have an internal ND, you don't have to worry about all that. Number one. Number two, all third-party ND filters will have suboptimal color to them because there's going to be some color cast, and it's very difficult to get to the exact right filter for you, because you are in different, someone is in Russia, someone is in Japan, someone is in India or Africa. Different markets have different manufacturers. So a lot of markets don't have access to the best ND filters. And I think that suboptimal performance because of a third-party ND filter, that can be avoided. Secondly, for cameras like this, really, when I want to use slow shutter speed during the daytime, this camera has amazing. This is the Nikon ZF. This camera has amazing IBIS. Now, which means that I can really slow my shutter speed down to 1/4 of a second, and half a second, and then get those they creatively show the movements in the scene. But I would need to use an ND filter for that. And for me to carry an ND filter for those tiny lenses that you mount on a camera like this, it's difficult. You don't get those kind of ND filters very easily, and it's again very cumbersome, man. So it's just nice to have an ND filter inbuilt in this camera. One of the reasons why the X100 series is such a success, in my view. Now, third, anti-theft measures. This is one thing I am a bit thankful to Tony Northrup. That guy has been speaking about anti-theft measures for a long time. I think basic things like GPS tracking or unique identifiers, I think those things can really help, really help photographers today. You can track a cheap phone. I'm not talking about expensive iPhones. I'm talking about cheap Android phones. You can track them, right? Quite credibly at times. And you can't track your expensive camera gear. That's not right. It doesn't feel right. I think these cameras have so much inbuilt in them already. I think to add GPS and to be able to connect it to your phone and to always know where the camera is not a problem. And also a lot of rental houses who run big businesses and they give the cameras in rent, and that's a business. I think it gives them an extra layer of security. You know exactly where this guy is actually going with the camera. Of course, there is insurance and all that. But if you can access that additional security, why not? In today's day and age, you should have that. And especially when I keep hearing this kind of equipment theft stories, especially in the West, in America and other countries like that, then comes this whole thing of data protection, of course, because at times you're dealing with very, very sensitive data. What if you are a private detective? What if you are, you're working with the CIA or some intelligence, and some guy comes and just steals your data? If you have data protection, and if the company can remotely access that data and delete it when needed, format the card. I talked about internal SSD, right? So the data will be on your card, on your internal SSD. I think all these ideas can work together really, really powerfully. And I think these are three things that I'm really looking for: internal SSD, anti-theft and data protection, and the internal anti-filters. Let me know what you think. And if you're new here, all you have to do is just subscribe and like the video. Because it doesn't take anything away from you, but it's really going to make my day, make my month. Why don't you just subscribe? I'm going to see you very soon with another video soon.